Welcome back everybody to part 5 of our Unity Beginners tutorial series. In the last episode we fully animated our character and now we are going to create a level for our character to run around in and enjoy. Before we do, I just want to show you something. Here you can see the option Maximize on Play. Whenever you have that highlighted and press play, we can enjoy our game and play test in full screen glory. Just thought I'd show you that. Happy days. Let's go back. And let's go to our prefabs that we created at the end of the last episode. So as I said, prefabs are master copies of a game object. Any changes we make will automatically update all the game objects of the same type within our scene. So I would like us to make some changes now before we continue. Saves us doing it later. And one of those is for our block. If you double click, it'll open up the prefab. And as we are going to be jumping on these, running on these, we're going to need them to be, if you can remember, we need them to be tagged on the layer of ground. Else we're not going to be able to jump because our player is always looking to see whether his feet are firmly grounded. That's all we need to do there. Now let's go to our spikes next. I like to clean up our collider on things such as spikes because at the minute it fits the exact size of our sprite, so at any point our character's collider touches any of the borders here, it'll trigger a player death, and we don't want that. We want it to have a better feel. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the collider 2D component, and you can see here we have edit collider option. There we go. So we can now change the size of our collider. So I'm going to just put it there, neaten it up a little bit, trim the fat as it were. And let's do it on this side as well. There we are. And I think I will also bring the height down as well. So we need to fall a little bit, there should do, before we become impaled on our spikes. Also, we're going to want to give this its own tag as well, which will come into effect later in this video. So let's go to tag, add tag. Our list is empty. Click the plus sign, new tag, and we'll call it spikes. Yeah, just spike. There we go. Go back. Make sure you select that tag of spike. There we go. And that's all for our spikes at the minute. So let's go back to our scene. So we've currently got in our scene our character. If we double click on a game object, it will automatically zoom and focus on those game objects. So I'm going to double click on camera and zoom in just a little bit to get it to fit. Okay, so how are we going to create our game objects for our level? We're going to create some platforms, which we will also make prefabs. We're going to have 3 sizes of platform. We'll have a small, a medium and a large. For small, we can get away with just using our block prefab. That'll just be 1 unit, 1 size. That's okay. Let us, in our hierarchy, create a new game object. We set its value, very important. And we'll just call it medium platform, med platform. Yeah, med plat. Duplicate that. And of course, we'll call this L plat. There we go. So medium platform and a large platform. So what are we going to do for our medium platform? Simple. We're going to use our prefabs as the building blocks. Let's drag a block prefab into medium platform. Zoom in, let's have a look. Okay, it's looking okay. Let's get our player out the way. We actually don't need him to be in the center now because he will always drop onto the ground. So we can place our player anywhere you want in your scene. I'm just going to put him there. There we go. Double click on our medium platform game object. And let's duplicate that block to make it a size of 2. There we go. That is our medium platform. And let's drag that into prefabs. Job done. Now if we go to here, we can move this around or we can hide it depending on what you want to do. Let's go to medium platform and let's just drag in another one And we can duplicate this now 3 times. There we go. All right, done. Platform creation, super easy. Now let's not forget to create a prefab of that as well. So we don't have to make platforms every time we want one. We can just drag them in from our prefabs folder. Nice and easy. Great, those are our platforms made. So let's move them around and use them how you like. I'm going to use them to make a staircase at the end there. So in our scene, zoom out a little bit, we can rearrange our platforms however we like. There we are. Quick way to make easy stairs. I'll drag in a single block as well. Make that part of the level game object. There we go. Got some stairs done real quick. And I will duplicate a large platform and I'll bring it to the top here. And that'll be where our goal flag will be. Speaking of goal flag, we need to start putting in some hazards and goals in our game. So let's go to our sprites, find our goal pole, bring it into the scene, make sure its values reset, add a box collider 2D, and we are good to go. Let's make a prefab of that, drag it in our prefabs folder. While we're at it, let's give it a tag as well. So go to tag, add tag, and we'll call it goal. There we go. Make sure to add that to our prefab. Happy days. All right, we have our goal pole. Let's bring that in as part of our level. Let's move that over here. There we go. Now let's create some hazards. To do that, we're going to make some spike pits. So let's create some new game objects. And we'll call this one spike pit. Reset its position. There we go. Drag in a block. Let's drag in a spike as well. Alright, let's lower the block down. Let's duplicate the block. We'll make a relatively large spike pit. There we go. One more block over there. And I'll duplicate the spikes as well. There we go. That looks okay. Create a prefab of that as well. Why not? Don't forget, make all our platforms child of our level game object. Keep it all organized and manageable. And we can place that. I'm going to put it a little closer. And why not? I think I'm happy to settle on a little platform here. There, that'll do. And let's put something on the ground too. Let's put a single block on the ground, just so our gamers know that they have to jump over this, and they've learned how to jump in the game, much like in the original Super Mario Bros. That first Goomba, oh no, what are we going to do? You got to jump over it, can't run through it. Okay, excellent. Now we can start writing some code to prepare our game for our game manager. What we want to say is that we fall into a spike. What's going to happen? Ouch, game over. And when we reach the goal pole, we want to say, well, hey, victory, well done. So to do that, let's go back into our script and let's get this done. First of all, let's look at how we're going to do player death, game over, when the player is going to make contact with anything that will be an enemy or a spike in this case. And to do that, we're going to go to the very bottom here. We are going to create a private function here, a private void called onTrigger. Enter 2D. There you go. It should automatically do that for you. Where it says Collider 2D collision, this is going to be the name that's going to refer to the object we're going to collide in, the other game object. I personally like to rename this to other, so we know that the other collider, other game object. And what do we want to say? Well, again, we're going to do this with an if statement. So if, and what's the condition? We'll say if the other dot game object, so the other object within our scene we're going to collide with, dot tag, so it's going to look for a tag and it's going to compare the tag. What tag have we recently used? We use spike. So any game object, the other game object, if it has a tag that is equal to, and open up the quotation marks, spike, what's going to happen? Well, for now, as we haven't got a game manager, we're going to work on that in the next video. We're going to set something called a debug.log. So debug.log is a great way of testing the functionality of your code if it works. So we want to get a response, and we can put a message in here. So let's just say, ouch. There we go. We'll put ouch in there. There we are. That saves us the time of having to create a game object and any other extensive lines of code we need. So when we collide with a spike, we should get this message in our console. So save, go back to Unity, and when it's compiled, let's press play, and I want to show you something that's going to happen. As we run and jump in our level, you might see that your character will trip and he will rotate on the Z axis. There's a quick fix for that, although that did look kind of cool, he did a flip. So let's go and correct that first. And we do that simply by going to our player, because even though we're working in 2D, the Z axis is still present, because that is the axis he's rotating on. And if you go to constraints in the rigid body 2D component, we can freeze position or freeze rotation. We want to freeze rotation on the Z axis. There we go. So that will prevent him from spinning wildly out of control if you collapse the corner of a platform or step. That's okay. Let's play test again, and I want to show you one other thing. We have written a code using onTriggerEnter 2D. What that means is that when two colliders enter each other, which is not going to happen here, you can see we are moving on the collider for our spikes, and we won't be able to jump because again they're not tagged as grounded. That's not an issue. We should see when we go on our spikes in the console down here, it should say ouch. We can change that, because what we need to do is designate a collider as a trigger in order for that function to work. So let's go to our spikes prefab. You can see on our box collider 2D, we have underneath material is a trigger. Tick that box. There we go. Now when it's a trigger, it should now work with our player, because our player has a rigid body and a collider, and the collider on our spikes is now a trigger, because the trigger we're looking for is if it hits an object called spikes. There we go. We fall through, and you can see in the console at the bottom there, we have ouch. So that works. That is A-OK. And you might be questioning, well, how have I passed through the collider now? There's a collider there, but we're just passing through it. When a collider is a trigger, it no longer restricts the movement. Objects can pass through triggers. Now let's do the same for our goal. We're not actually going to write this in our player function, because we have said on trigger enter. We cannot have more than one of those functions per script, because there is such a thing as on trigger exit 2D, which we can do. Something can enter and can exit. Something can enter, but can't enter another game object again. So we're going to write a separate script exclusively for our flag. So let's go to scripts, right click inside, create, new C# script. Let's call it goal pole. There we go. Once it's compiled, let's go to our prefabs goal pole. And we can add our script here via the add component function as well, rather than drag it from our scripts folder. If we click and type in the name of our script, goal pole, there you go. You'll see it right there. Select that. So we've already given our script to our goal game object. Let's open that script up. There we go. And what are we going to say? Well, we're going to say the same thing again. So at the bottom here, let's create our function. Private void on trigger enter 2D. Let's change that collision designation to other as well. So what are we saying this time? Well, we're going to use the player this time. We're going to say if other.gameObject.tag is equal to, and we'll say player. what's going to happen when the player breaches the collider on our flag, which we will have to make a trigger, remember, much like our spikes. Let's do a simple debug.log. And what do we want to say? Let's say, you win. There we go. Save that. Let's go back. Let it compile. There we are. Let's open up our hierarchy there. Let's go to our prefabs, goal pole. Remember, this is now a trigger. There we go. And we need to designate a tag to our player. As you can see, he's untagged. If we were to collide with this flag, nothing would happen. Because of course, the flag is looking for a tag of player on the other game object. So player is already there by default, just above game controller and below main camera. So let's tag him, tag our player. Now let's go and have a little play test, shall we? And we can navigate our level. It feels comfortable, it feels good. Our spikes work. Yep, ouch, we're in our spikes. And now let's check to see you win. Excellent. So that code is ready to go now. We're going to expand on that in the next episode. But before we do, I would like us to just do a little bit of extra prep, because when we win or when we hit a spike, we are going to want menus to pop up. So let's prepare those menus before we end. Now we're going to use very basic placeholder menus for our little game. And to create a menu, we're going to need to use what's called a canvas. Right click in the hierarchy, and we've already used things like create empty game object. And you may have noticed we have other options as well, especially at the bottom here. We have UI, user interface, and that will allow us to create text, images, raw images, buttons, and canvas. So go ahead, click canvas. There we go. So we now have a canvas which to paint our menu on, and currently it's all over here as an overlay in our screen space. We want it to fit the borders of our camera, so to change that, we are going to go to our canvas and go to render mode here in the inspector and change screen space overlay to screen space camera. And now it's going to ask us, well, what camera do you want to render the canvas on? Let's click and drag our main camera into there. And boom, there we go. Our canvas is now fit to our camera. Now let's go ahead inside the canvas and create UI image. And you'll see the image is behind the platforms in our level. That's because the canvas is set at a certain planar distance. If you click here where it says 2D, we can toggle between the 2D and the 3D view. So press that and you'll see that our canvas is way over here behind our level scene. So let's change that. Go to the canvas again and you'll see where it says plane distance. Let's bring that to something like 1 to put it in front of our level. There we go. Excellent. And now let's go ahead and scale our image up a little bit. So you can click the points here, some of the vertices, the blue points, and it should snap to the borders of the canvas. Now, when it comes to game overs, I quite like to close the curtain, as it were, dim the lights, to signify that the game is currently on recess. So let's change the colour of the image. Let's go to black. And at the bottom here, you'll have alpha. This is going to control the transparency of the image. Type in the box there, 100, I think that's pretty good. There we are, click off. And we're going to want to anchor our image to a fixed position within our camera. So to do that, click here in the rect transform. You can see we've got different options. This fixes it in the center. This will fix at the top, so it anchors it to the top, bottom corners. This basically controls where the image is going to be in our canvas space, depending on how scalable our screen is going to be. Perhaps you're on a larger screen and you may want it to be fixed at the top rather than the center. So it's just going to keep things tidy and controlled. So at the minute, our image, we just want it to stretch over the screen. So in the corner there, click stretch. So no matter what size our screen, it's going to fit the entire screen, no problems. Click off, okay, and let's go ahead and create some text as well. So go to canvas, UI, text, Let's bring this up a bit. We can move this here. You can see we've got the rulers there, the lines. And I'm going to fit it to the top part of this screen here. There we go. Keep it nice and tidy. And we can type in what we want our text to say here in the text component. And in capital letters, I'm going to say game over. But we currently cannot see it because the text color is black. And you can change that here. I'm going to change it to white. There we are. But our text is stuck in the corner there at a very small font size. That's not a problem. Much like in any good word processor, you can adjust the font size and the paragraph alignment as well. So let's go ahead and center our text. Change our font size a little bit. Let's scale it up. If you hover your cursor between font size and the number, you'll see these two little arrows here. If you click and go left and right, you can control the scale just like that. That's super handy, super quick if we want to change the scale of our font. That looks good to me. And I want it to sit in the center of our little box as well. So I'll just go to the alignment and click here. There we go. Excellent. And we're going to want to anchor that as well. So we want it to always be positioned at the top of our screen, regardless of screen size. So over here, it's currently anchored in the center. So let's anchor it to the top. So if we press play now, we should see how our canvas works within our game. There we are. You can see it's at the top, but our scale, small, it's been changed. This is no good. Let's sort that out, shall we? The reason our text is so small is because back in our canvas, we have the canvas scaler here. Our UI scale mode is set to a constant pixel size. So regardless of the size of our screen, the scale of our screen, it's going to keep things set to their constant pixel size. So we want that to scale as well with the size of our screen. So let's change that to scale with screen size. We can keep this reference resolution for now for the sake of simplicity. That's okay. Screen match mode is match width or height. At the minute, it's prioritizing the width of our canvas. So it's going to scale it best match to our width. We can adjust this to fit the height, to best fit height, or if we type in 0.5, we can have it adjust to both. It's more balanced. So if we press play now, we'll see that our font size should remain consistent with our screen size. There we go. That's much better. But I don't like it to be too at the top there. So we can just bring that down a little bit. So let's move that down. There we go. That'll do. So far so good. Now we're going to want to add some buttons now that will allow us to click to replay the game, click to go back to main menu or exit the game. So go ahead in the canvas, right click, UI once again, so all our UI components are there, and click on button. There we go. So we've got a little button sat in the middle. If you open it up, we have the button there, which is our image, and we've got some text. Let's rename this button replay. There we go. And let's change our text to replay as well. There we are. And you can see it's looking a little bit blurry. That's because we want to change the overflow of our text. So where it says horizontal overflow and vertical overflow, let's just change those to overflow. So we do not have to worry about that too much if we scale our buttons. And you can see also, if you go to the replay button, we have a normal color and a highlighted color. If we play our game and hover over our button, you should see it should change to a darker tone. That will be the highlighted color. If you click it, nothing's going to happen, but ooh, we are going to jump. So let's go back. And we can change the color here if you like. I'm going to go with red, I think. And I'll change the highlight color to a darker red. There we are. And I think our text, I'll change that color to white as well. There we go. Now we can go ahead and duplicate this button. So let's duplicate it. And we'll call this one quit. All we've got to do is change the text to quit. And let's position it just below our replay button here. There we are. I'm going to put it there. There we go. And that is all for our game over menu. It's very simple, very basic. So close down that canvas. Let's rename this one game over screen. And let's reuse this by duplicating it, create our victory screen. But first, I would like us to deactivate this game over screen component by going here and clicking this box. There we go. So that is now not active. Still in our scene, but we can't see it. It's not active. Let's change this one to victory screen. There we are. And we don't want this image, so we can just delete that. There we go. And we'll just change the text. So let's change game over to you win. And keep the buttons the same. We either want to replay or quit. And that will do for now. Very basic victory screen. So minimize that. And we'll also set that as deactivated as well. And in the next video, we're going to create a game manager that is going to control our in-game systems, such as player death and victory, as well as respawning and replaying the game and quitting to the menu as well. We're going to tie it all together. As always, thank you very much for joining me. It's been fun to create these videos for you. And if anyway these tutorials have been useful to you, please consider supporting the channel by subscribing below, as I have plenty more in the pipeline that I want to share with you all. And any questions, please feel free to contact me, whether here in the comments or at any of our Twitter handles at Expat Studios or my personal. And I will see you all in the next video. Take care, guys. Thank you very much.